It's a new world where competition is no longer defined by the boundaries of geography, where continuous improvement is no longer an option but a necessity, where complacency can be unforgiving, where even the most talented team needs the right tool to thrive. Are you empowering your team with the right tools of competition?
All right then. Well, welcome everyone to our webinar. Our topic today is Business and Finance Transformation, Competencies for the 21st Century. I'm your host, Dr. Donna Whitten, and I really hope you enjoy our webinar. We have lots of wonderful information for you. Things have changed. We need to go about making our financial decisions in a dramatically different way than we have in the past. The last decade has brought enormous changes, especially in the areas of technology advances that impact the way we must do business, and especially in the way the financial functions need to be performed in organizations now and into the future. Now, as we look at these core financial processes, we believe that transformation requires attaining visibility and clarity around a set of key transformational questions. The first question, do we know what it is important for our organization to do well? Where do we need to be excellent? Do we know what our core competencies are and how effective we are at performing them? Do we have enough visibility into these processes to honestly answer this question in the first place? Next, how effective are we in these core competency areas compared to how we want to be or feel that we should be operating? And do we know actually what excellence is? Do we know what the gold standard is? Can we answer this question? This means that we also need to know how the execution of our core competencies stack up against our competitors and against similar organizations in our demographics. We need to know the best practice standards that we aspire to and how we are compared to those standards. And if there is indeed a difference between what we do, what we want to do, what we feel we should be doing, and how our competitors are doing, how do we go about closing these gaps? Where do we start? Which gaps are most important to close first? And then finally, in our efforts to close the gaps between what we want and where we are right now, how do we know if we've actually indeed closed those gaps compared to the competencies of our competitors and comparable organizations? And what else do we need to fully realize the value we have aimed for? Here at ValueSoft, we believe that our state-of-the-art analytics and tools can be an invaluable aid to help you answer these questions for your organization and to move forward from where you are to become a truly transformative organization. Here at ValueSoft, we've developed a 4-phase process transformation. The first phase, the discovery phase, consists of identifying what it is that your organization does that is important to you and finding out how well you do it compared to best practices for your industry and demographics. The second phase, the gap assessment or blueprint phase, consists of comparing how well you do at best practices to how well comparable companies do at these best practices. It also consists of identifying and prioritizing the gaps that your organization needs to close and prioritizing them against their strategic importance for your organization. The third phase, the realization and execution phase, is all about selecting strategic improvement processes that you want to implement, developing the business case, assigning improvement metrics, and then implementing those projects. And finally, the post-implementation monitoring phase consists of evaluating how well you've done with these improvement processes and then, as needed, making corrective actions to reach the full potential of what it is that you wish to achieve. ValueSoft's analytic tools and database, as we'll demonstrate, has over 150 best practice scenarios to compare how your organization's finance practices compare to those of the best companies in the world. Now, this is actually a screenshot from our application. We're going to right now show you an example from a demo company that we've loaded into the application. The first thing that you're going to be doing is spending a few minutes entering a few pieces of information about your organization. After you do that, then you're going to access the process diagnostic functions within ValueSoft. You will need to add some simple information such as identifying the critical year that you want to look at. And by the way, just as a teaser, ValueSoft functionality includes trend analysis. This application will take seconds, not the 2 to 3 months that a consulting company can take. With a click of the button, we're going to have a list. Right now we're going to focus on the order to cash functional area. ValueSoft will bring up for you a list of all of the scenario descriptions for the base year that you've selected that are associated with the order to cash process. And remember, we have 150 business processes scenarios that are included in our application. After we have entered all of the information in the discovery phase, literally, we click one button and we can get this benchmark report. This is the process adoption maturity ranking. Now, let's take a look at this. Remember, we're focusing right now on order to cash. Now, if you were doing this actually in real time, you would be looking at all of the finance processes and not just order to cash. But we want to focus just for today on order to cash. You can see in the middle of the graph the 3 bars that are associated with order to cash. The leftmost bar is the one that indicates the level of adoption of order-to-cash best practices for the top 20% of companies. Now, this is compared to all of the companies in our database, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. The rightmost bar indicates the level of adoption for 70%, which is actually about 1 sigma of the very best companies in the world. So if we look at 70% of the companies that are in our database are operating at a 0.62 level of adoption. However, take a look at that very, very small bar right in the middle, that 3rd bar, the light violet bar. Based on the entries that you did during the discovery phase, this indicates your organization's level of process maturity. Clearly, we can see that as we look at this graph that we have a great deal of work to do. Now, one click, again, one more mouse click, we can take a look at what's called the gap closure dashboard. On the gap closure dashboard, it's going to give you basically a graphic presentation of all of the areas where you have a large gap between the capabilities of your company and those of the best companies in the world. If you look at this, you'll notice that the area where it's clear that the greatest number of opportunities is enterprise risk management. This graph is going to allow you to see the areas where you have the greatest gap between your performance and the very best companies. This is actually going to allow you to now make very specialized decisions about how you are going to invest your improvement dollars. These are going to be the areas where you're going to get the best return on investment. Let's take a look now at enterprise risk management in order to see what are the specific best practice scenarios that we could look at as opportunities for improvement. And again, this isn't a matter of having a consulting company or your own resources spending 2 or 3 months in order to create a report for you like this. This is literally a matter of one click of a mouse button. I think you can also appreciate why it's so incredibly important to get your information accurate during that discovery phase. With that one click of a mouse button, we get a list of high priority areas for process improvement. This report, I think we can see this fairly well. Now, on the far left are the ranked best practice scenarios based on the ones that the software has determined give you the best return on investment in order to make your improvements. Now, that column called criticality is actually this is actually part of our internal algorithm that is going to determine basically the priority of the weight of improving on this particular best practice as far as determining what the best return on investment is going to be. You'll see that the very first entry is the company completes periodic training for employees on key compliance-related issues such as conflict of interest, data and information privacy, and sexual harassment. Criticality is desirable. Adoption level, this is something that you enter during the discovery phase, is none. The desired adoption level is best of class. So basically, as the calculation is done, this actually becomes the area where you can get the best return on investment from making process improvements. Also, you'll notice on this screen that there's a space where you can actually enter your own comments about what it is that you want to do. By the way, ValueSoft in just a few seconds identified 22 best practice improvement areas associated with enterprise risk management for this demo company. Now again, think about the difference between doing this with one click of a mouse button and spending months of doing research in order to develop this kind of report. On one screen, you see very clearly the areas where you can make process improvement investments, and you know exactly what it is that you're going to be doing and why it's important. Think about the difference in how you make your financial decisions. Using the ValueSoft analytic tools, you can actually store information about the improvement projects that you're making within the ValueSoft application. This becomes incredibly important if you're looking at several improvement areas. Because again, remember, we only looked at the order to cash process. We did not look at the improvements associated with all of the other financial areas. In all likelihood, you're going to have several selections of things to improve that are going to be important for you. But also you'll have to decide how many of these things you want to do at one time. Typically, you will stage these in order to manage the effort that you're going to use for improvement. This means that you may have identified areas for improvement this month, this week, but you may not actually begin to work on those for 6 to 9 months or a year later. ValueSoft gives you the opportunity to actually collect information about those opportunities in one place so that you don't lose that information as you come back to it 6 months, perhaps a year later. Let's take a look at what this actually looks like. There are two areas that are going to be important for you. Let's take a look at the bottom of this screen first. This is where we're actually going to collect information about the business case. Now, the importance of the way that this is segmented is that in most organizations, it's not going to be one person who's working on a business case, but actually a collection of people. This allows you to segment the business case so that you can keep track, and actual individuals can go in and do entries for different areas of the business case. Now, more information about these screens and the screens that follow are actually included in some of our other webinars. So I don't want to spend too much time here because they're going to be gone into in much, much greater detail in further webinars. So, to wrap up, I'm really hoping that you've developed an appreciation for all of the support that ValueSoft can give to your transformation efforts. ValueSoft is far more than a software company. We are a full-service organization that is dedicated to your financial transformation. You, of course, have lots of choices as far as how you approach improving your company's performance, but I hope you can see that our ValueSoft solutions offer you tools that will dramatically improve on the time and the quality of the decisions you make that you will need to make as part of your journey towards organizational excellence. In addition to our software, you will see that we have many services. We have web-based training, just like this webinar that we've just concluded. Many of our webinars are best practice deep dives with expert speakers on special topics. Our analytics and tools and methods, of course, are the cornerstone of the work that we do, as you've seen from our webinar. We also recognize that while you may choose to use our products entirely on your own through our licensing process, you may also want to take advantage of our world-class consultants who can assist you through all aspects of the transformation process. Again, especially as you look at the values that you enter during the discovery phase, it is critically important that this information is accurate. We hope that you've enjoyed our presentation and that you've gained some insight into how you can transform your organization. We really look forward to hearing from you again, either at one of our other webinars as a member of our growing family of organizations who have decided to adopt the ValueSoft Transformation Framework. Thank you so much for being part of our webinar. And now we're actually going to open things up for questions from the audience.